All right. Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Thomas, and I am the Assistant Commissioner of our Constituent Services Division at ISD. I will put my contact information in the chat just in case folks who are joining us have any questions or concerns and would like to follow up. I will kick it over to John and the rest of our team to do a brief introduction, and then we'll go right into the presentation.
Good evening, John Ulrich. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Environmental Services here at ISD.
Good evening, John Blackmore. I'm the Director of Code Enforcement under Department of Public Works.
Chris, you want to unmute?
Christopher McNally, Environmental Health Inspector with the City of Boston's Inspectional Services Division.
Okay, thank you guys for the introduction. Okay, we'll go over to the next slide. All right, so thank you everyone for joining our presentation. We will be talking about rodent control and initiating this virtual workshop. We just have a couple of decorum and guidelines for participation. We ask that you engage respectfully at all times. Disruptive behavior will not be permissible. We are encouraging all questions to be typed directly into the chat. And then additional questions and comments could be directed at our team by calling us at 617-635-5300. Again, I'll be also sharing our contact information in the chat for anyone who would like to send a message or follow up. We also have a website that has been listed that would allow you to view additional resources and assistance as needed. So this webinar will be recorded and posted on our website as well. So if you do need to get off and you are interested in re-looking at the video, you're more than welcome to do so. We will make sure that is available for anyone who is interested. Okay, and then as far as rodent control, the mission of the Inspectional Services Department is to protect the health and safety of Boston's business and residential communities by enforcing building, housing, health, and environmental regulations effectively and consistently. So I'll turn it over to the very amazing John, who will be talking about our team and the work that we do.
Thanks, Jessica. As I said, John Ulrich, I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Environmental Services here at ISD. Currently, we have 14 licensed inspectors. We're licensed to do pest control. We have 3 shifts. They start at 4 a.m. We have a shift at 6 a.m. and a shift that starts at 8 a.m. The early morning shift are the inspectors that do the majority of the pest control. We operate on 5 basic principles: public education, we improve sanitation practices, proactive prevention, rapid response, and enforcement. If you call 311 and put in a complaint, we will respond within 24 to 48 hours. Enforcement, we write a violation. We're just asking you to correct the violation. We do not have a fine attached to environmental sanitary violations. What we do, utilizing integrated pest management to keep pest populations low. Integrated pest management is the best approach to reducing rodent activity. It's putting controls into place to affect the supportive environment that allow rodents to thrive. So removing food source, removing vegetation, any kind of rodent harborage, keeping and maintaining your property. Food is the main driver of it. When you do those things, you reduce the need for rodenticides or lethal control. Next. We do a lot of outreach, community walkthroughs. This summer has been huge with community walkthroughs. We've done 27 since June 1st. And what we do with these community walkthroughs is we meet the community where they're at. Most of the work that happens in environmental services happens before people get up in the morning. So we do it for visibility. We do it so folks can point to what their frustration is or where their problem is. And then we do education around what's the best way to deal with rodent activity when you have it. If you have rodent activity on your property, you should call 311. But you should also address the other things that we spoke about. Your trash, cover your trash. Make sure that the property is maintained. We have all our educational materials in 6 languages. We also have 3 or 4 bilingual inspectors. Upon receiving a complaint, inspector will conduct an inspection within 24 to 48 hours. We look for the cause of the issue. Usually, if you call a complaint in, we will inspect the property to the left and to the right. We're looking to identify food source, activity, and the cause of the infestation. Turn this over to code enforcement, John Blackmore.
Thank you, John. As I said earlier, John Blackmore, Director of Code Enforcement, City of Boston. So code enforcement is responsible for enforcing the codes pertaining to all trash-related issues pertaining to both businesses and residential properties. So what we do is we enforce the times they go out, the manner the trash is put out, and if it's stored correctly. The Code Enforcement Division is comprised. I have 15 officers who maintain a strong presence in the city by patrolling the streets of Boston on foot, bike, and car. I have 3 shifts. Code enforcement is pretty much a 24-hour operation now, 7 days a week. So code enforcement, we conduct the walkthroughs with John's team here at ISD, and respond to complaints and conduct the area inspections. So this is what we were talking about. The improper storage and disposal of trash can lead to the problems with the odors, the cleanliness, and the rodents. As you can see, this bag has been ripped open and there's all kinds of trash and litter spewing across the sidewalk. It's just a haven for the rats. So properties received, if that trash bag ripped open like that, that would be a $25 fine. If it's a commercial business, it's a $50 fine.
What contributes to rodent infestation? Food, water, and shelter. That's the supportive environment that allow rodents to thrive. Food, trash is the #1 food source for rodents in the city of Boston. If you don't store your trash properly, it's a very good chance that your trash is gonna become a food source for rodents. Also, when you put your trash out, if you put your trash out in a bag, when you put your trash out the night before, that bag may sit on the sidewalk for 12 to 14 hours. Reducing, if your trash goes out in a trash bag, reducing the amount of time the trash sits on the sidewalk, if it's stored in a barrel with a tight fitting lid to the time of collection. Rats need a lot of water. They constantly drink and urinate. So standing water is a large contributor to rodent activity. It's also a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Shelter, rodents will they're burrowing animals, but they will use anything to hide and feel safe. They don't see very well. They will hide under your porch. They'll burrow in your tree planters or your planters where your garden is. Any kind of clutter, harborage, vegetation, your bushes in your garden, you want to trim down to the stem so that you can see the root system. Rats like to feel things on the top of their heads. It makes them feel safe from predators above. So maintaining your property, removing clutter, removing places for them to hide and feel safe is important. Additional contributing factors. Feeding the birds is one of the top food sources for rodents. I know folks like to feed the birds. They like to look at the birds when they have the bird feeder. But if you have rodents, it's their most natural food. Rodents originated somewhere in northern China, Mongolia. And seed was their food source. And so seed is their preferred food source. Bird feeders, feeding the birds, throwing stale bread out for birds is just an opportunity for rats. Rats need a reliable food source 3 times a week. And if you're feeding the birds, there's a good chance that feeding the birds is causing rodent activity. Dog waste is a preferred food source for rodents. Undigested food in the dog waste provides rodents everything they need. And I know it's gross, but if a rat establishes dog waste as a food source, rats, if they establish a food source that is safe, they will stick with that. So even if you introduce pest control and a bait box, the rats will stick with what is feeding them and providing them everything they need. So if you have rodent activity, I know some folks, you let your dog out in the backyard, you clean it every couple days. If you have rodent activity, you have to clean up right after your dog. Do not leave dog waste in the backyard. Tips to keep rodents away. Proper storage of trash is the most important way to reduce rodent activity. Containerization, making sure your barrels are stored, your trash is stored in barrels with tight fitting lids. Rinsing your recycling, removing food waste from your trash, proper containment of composting. The city has a composting program that has good barrels. Removing that food waste from the trash reduces the chance it will become a food source for rodents. Sanitation is the most important step to preventing rodent infestations. Cleaning inside your home, making sure that food is stored properly. If you're dealing with mice or rats, making sure that you eliminate food source. Under the stoves, the drawer, where you store the pans, making sure the ground is clean of crumbs. They don't need a lot to survive, and food is the main driver of it. Properly storing of trash, as I said before, when you leave your trash bags out for collection and they're not in a barrel, there's a good chance an animal will get at it, or it will be torn apart. People looking for recycling or for cans. The best approach, especially with rodents, is making sure your trash is in a barrel with a tight fitting lid. Dumpsters, closed lid, placing all the trash inside the dumpster. If the lid is not shut, rats can jump, they can climb. This dumpster here is next to a fence. Rodents are opportunists. And so if there's an opportunity in a dumpster full of trash, they will turn that into a food source and reproduce very quickly. Secure adequate amount of trash barrels. You are required to have enough storage of trash for the amount of your trash your building produces. So make sure you have enough barrels. Make sure those barrels have lids, tight fitting lids, and make sure the trash is going in the barrels. Feeding your pets, feeding stray animals, feral cats. If you do it, you should stand there until the animal is done eating it. Any kind of food, especially pet food, has a chance of turning into food for rats. So if you put water out and you feed the stray cats, stand there and make sure the cat finishes it, and then take it in. As we said before, any kind of clutter discarded unwanted furniture, toys, old barrels. In the picture, you see piles of bikes. All of that creates harborage for rats. You know, there are burrows underneath this pile of bikes, which kids are probably riding. The rats will burrow underneath those because it's places where they feel safe, especially near a food source. Rodents will travel up to 100 feet for food, but they want to be as close as possible to the food source. So if you have clutter near a barrel that doesn't have a cover, or near a dumpster that doesn't have a dumpster plug, there's a good chance you're creating harborage, and you'll end up with rodent activity. Rodents love to eat where they live. As I said before, rodents, they will travel up to 100 feet for food, as far as 300 feet, but really 100 feet. But they want to be as close as possible to the food source. So if they have a dumpster that isn't being maintained, if you have barrels that don't have covers, that have holes in them, there's a very good chance you're going to have rat burrows right next to them. Bird feeders, if you do have bird feeders, which I recommend that you don't in the city of Boston, the bird seed that falls on the ground is what will feed the rats. And so making sure that you are cleaning those up daily. There's even things that you can buy, catchers that you put underneath the bird feeders to catch the seed when the bird drops in. As I said before, do not feed the birds. Sitting in the park with old bread, you're really just feeding the rats. Standing water, as I said before, rats require constant water. And that could be the cover of the upside down cover of your trash barrel. It can be old tires. Anything that collects water after rain can be a water source for rats. It also can be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. And so you want to make sure you walk your property and remove that, tip over the upside down barrel covers and remove the water. Regularly maintaining the vegetation on your property is really important, especially like in this picture. This was in Boston, Brighton. She had a lot of low-hanging hedges, and the burrows were all over her front yard. It provides cover for them, and especially vegetation that gives full ground cover is what the rodents love. It gives them protection from predators above, and you know, they want to stay away from us. So it gives them places to hide, burrow, and find opportunities to find food. One of the best ways to control rodents is to make it impossible for them to gain entry into your home. You should walk around your foundation, no matter how many rats are outside your home, they should never be able to get inside. The way you prevent rats and mice from getting inside is doing the exclusion work, making sure that you're repointing your masonry. In Boston, we have a lot of old fieldstone, granite foundations, making sure the mortar's there, repointing, checking your door jambs, checking your window jambs, filling in all the areas that rodents might use to enter your home. Door sweeps, you should not be able to see light under your door. You want to make sure that your door sweeps are in place and that those door sweeps are rodent proof. Caps on your chimney, rodents can climb. Do not leave doors open for rodents to just walk in. We see that a lot. If you got activity in your backyard and you leave your door open, rodents will take advantage of that. Rodent control methods we use. Integrated pest management is the best approach, and that is eliminating, using the controls, using education, community walkthroughs, talking about sanitation, using sanitation ourselves, addressing trash and like in the parks, making sure the barrels are covered, maintenance, exclusion work. The very last part of an integrated pest management plan is lethal control, and that includes pesticides and trapping. We use traps. We're currently trapping at night in city parks, and we use Slim Jims on snap traps. So if you're dealing with rats and you're trapping them yourself, Slim Jims work great. We use dry ice to treat burrows. We have reduced, almost eliminated our use of second generation anticoagulants. We do not use second generation anticoagulants in burrows any longer. We use dry ice. We also use carbon monoxide and soon tanked carbon dioxide. This is a picture of the Burrow RX. This machine pumps carbon monoxide into the burrows. There is no chance of secondary poisoning, and it's very effective. It kills the rat in the burrow. The rats just die in the burrow, and there's no chance. We don't introduce any pesticides or rodenticides into the environment. It's very effective. Rodenticides are placed in secure bait boxes. I'm sure you have all seen bait boxes around in the city when people are dealing with rodent activity. These are secure boxes. We currently use a bait called Cilantro. It's a vitamin D3 product. We have stopped using second generation anticoagulants in the bait boxes. Bait boxes do not solve rodent activity. Sometimes when people are dealing with a lot of rodent activity, they put a lot of bait boxes out. That's not the best way. One box every 30 feet should be effective, but you also have to do the other things like removing the food source, make sure you're maintaining your property. Construction sites, community sanitation is the way that we regulate rodent activity on construction sites. When you apply for a permit, demo permit, a long form permit, the plans examiner will assign a plans review of a community sanitation. That means that you have to come to environmental services with a pest control report stating that your property has been inspected by a pest control technician and that there is no rodent activity on that property. We'll give you then a sign off, and an inspector will come out and confirm what the report said. Site cleanliness. Site cleanliness is our licensing program. We license dumpsters across the city. It is one of our best tools in fighting rodent activity. So every dumpster in the city should be licensed with a site cleanliness license. Restaurants, residential, commercial trash. The license tells us that your trash is picked up commercially. And it gets an annual inspection. So an inspector once a year will come out, inspect your dumpster, make sure that you have covers, that your dumpster drain plug is present, and that your dumpster isn't causing rodent activity or quality of life issues for the abutters. Site cleanliness ordinance regulates the overflowing of all dumpsters, windblown litter, rodent activity that occurs as a result of poor trash practices. Also, code enforcement is the enforcement agency of the site cleanliness ordinance. So we work closely with code enforcement to make sure folks have the license And if there is an issue with a dumpster, we work closely with them to do enforcement. The Boston Rodent Action Plan, the Mayor Wu has launched the Boston Rodent Action Plan in June. It is a coordination of city departments to tackle the issue of rodent activity across the city. We meet regularly as a working group to coordinate our staff and our resources to work on pilot programs and new ideas to address rodent activity across the city. BRAP, as we call it, we hired a consultant, Dr. Bobby Corrigan, who met with all our departments, did a full assessment, and gave us a report on activity in the city. We are now going to take that report and use it as our guidance moving forward with the BRAP working group. Why are there so many rats in Boston? It's an old city. Rodents probably landed here 300 years ago. They probably came over on a ship from Europe, and they are so well adapted to us. We provide them everything they need. And so our goal with the Boston Rodent Action Plan is to educate the public, to coordinate our services, and find ways to reduce the supportive environment that are allowing rodents to thrive. What does the report say? He addressed departments individually with recommendations around trash management, recommendations around rodenticide and what kind of rodenticide we should use, different pilots and suggestions around things we should do with Boston Water and Sewer and Public Works, the Parks Department, around containerization and ways to deal with rodent activity. The BRAP strategy is we have identified priority action neighborhoods. These are the neighborhoods that are the most dense with the most activity, and we are going to start in those neighborhoods. We are not, the 27 walkthroughs that we've done through June are across all neighborhoods, but we're starting with some specific pilots in the priority action neighborhoods. We're looking at different technologies that are out there, different tools, new tools. Working over the summer, we worked with 2 MIT students to develop an algorithm to predict where rodent activity is. We're looking to move from a more reactive to a more proactive operation. How to keep your neighborhood clean. 311 is the best way to communicate with city services. It's definitely the best way to communicate with environmental services. When you see a rat, doesn't matter where, if you see it on your property or while you're out and about, reporting that to Boston 311 so an inspector can respond wherever you are. The inspectors are broken up by wards. That complaint will be directed to the ward inspector, and we can come out and inspect. Disposing of your trash and food waste properly, not feeding the birds, as we said, making sure you're cleaning up after your pets, removing yard debris, overgrowth of plants, and rinsing your trash and recycling is good steps towards reducing rodent activity. Containerization is the best way to, it's where we're going to have the biggest impact in reducing rodent activity across the city. Whether it's residential trash or commercial trash, we want your trash in containers as long as possible up to the time of collection. If you have any questions, you can visit boston.gov/rats. There'll be a lot of information. You can read the report yourself. You can also reach out to myself or your area inspector if you have any questions. This is the list of the collaborating departments, members of BRAP. All of these departments are involved in our meetings regularly, coordinating services and staff to try to address this issue. Boston 311, report any activity you see in the city of Boston. Rodent complaints go directly to the inspector's handheld device. That inspector will respond 24 to 48 hours. 311 will provide a case number for you to track. That is very important. If you call, you should ask the person who, the operator, 311 operator, for your case number. I would recommend that you download the 311 app. That way you can track all your cases. And if you have a question about what happened with your case, or you got a response that you didn't understand, you could send us an email with your case number and we can look it up very easily and give you an update on your case. That's all from me. I appreciate you all joining us tonight, and I'll turn it over for questions.
Hi, John. There are a few questions. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a question here from Patrick. It's saying, he's asking if the city requires any property with a dumpster to have a rodent control. Is this a requirement in Lynn and most, this is a requirement in Lynn and most cities?
It's not a requirement if they don't have rodent activity on their property. We do require the dumpster to be licensed with a site cleanliness license and to be inspected once a year. But unless they have rodent activity on the property, we don't require them to have pest control. If you see a dumpster and it has rodent activity around it, you should call 311, report it so that we can respond. If the trash is not being stored properly in the dumpster, we can issue a violation. Code enforcement can issue a violation and we can require them to then get pest control.
Okay, the next question is from Nancy, and she's saying, we are a friends group on the corridor, South End and Back Bay. We are on State Island, but the rats don't care. Is the city able to assist us going forward in rodent control?
So the city will assist, ISD inspectors will help you anywhere in the city with rodent control. We do not treat private property, but we can give you advice, inspect your property, try to figure out what's causing the activity. If it's coming from an abutting property, we could definitely address that through violation.
Okay, next question from ES. He's asking, or stating that other towns mandate peppermint smelling bags for trash. Why doesn't Boston do the same?
There's no evidence that peppermint bags would reduce rodents' desire to get in the bag.
Okay. Next question, can you please say more about how to use the dry ice in burrows?
So dry ice, you put 2 pounds of dry ice pellets into the burrow and seal it up. And that dry ice sublimates into carbon dioxide and goes to the bottom of the burrow and asphyxiates the rat. So you would, if you have burrows in your backyard, you could put 2 pounds of dry ice in the holes. I would recommend that you hire a licensed pest control company and ask them to use dry ice.
Okay, We had many questions regarding allowing plastic bags to be used in some parts of the city. Is that John
You
Blackmore?
wanna talk about plastic bags?
Yeah, so right now, the ordinance allows you to use the plastic bags, you just can't use store-bought bags like the Stop and Shop bags or the Trader Joe bags. Your trash has to be put out in a 2-ply bag.
Just because you're allowed to put trash out for collection in a trash bag, doesn't mean you should. And it doesn't mean you should put it out the night before. I know that the trash pickup can be early. But any amount of time that your trash sits on the sidewalk is a chance that that trash will become a food source for rodents. And so it's right in front of your house. You don't want to feed rats. So I would, if that is your only option, if a trash bag in front of your house is the only option, then I would try to greatly reduce the time that the trash bag sits on the sidewalk.
So, does cayenne pepper work? Or peppermint oil to discourage them or get rid of the rodents?
I have not seen any evidence that those things work. There are some sprays that include those that people use for your trash bags. If you wanted to deter a rat, the best thing is 10% bleach. 1 pot water, 1 pot bleach, 9 pots water, and you spritz your bags with that, and that will deter rats. But if you have rats getting into your barrel, you need to hire a licensed pest control company, because it won't stop them. Rodents are driven by food. And so spritzing your barrels with bleach while you introduce pest control is a good plan.
Okay. From anonymous attendee, what are your plans to help the North End? We have no barrels and constant food supply, rats everywhere. Now seagulls are ripping bags open too.
We are in the North End every day. We are treating the parks in the North End regularly. We do education around trash management. We work with the health department to address the restaurants and their waste. So we are constantly in the North End. We need the community's help. The trash, residential trash that goes out in bags, like I said, if there's a way to limit the amount of time that your trash sits on the sidewalk, that is beneficial to everyone. If you see rodent activity in the North End, you should call 311 and report it. My inspectors start in the North End very early in the morning. We are treating multiple parks on the regular with carbon monoxide, addressing rodent activity in parks. So if you see rodent activity in the North End and really any neighborhood in the city, you should report it so that we can respond.
John, can you discuss the impact, if there is any, of the utility street digging that has been going on all over the city for years?
So currently, the only utility that is required to do pest control is Boston Water and Sewer. We are working with the other utility companies to look at ways to address rodent activity when there is street construction.
Okay. And this is from Michaela. I know that every effort theoretically helps, but really with a city this size and not enough citizen engagement, it seems we are not going to make a dent in the problem. Does the city plan to have a massive campaign?
We do. The Boston Rodent Action Plan is we are looking at, we are constantly doing outreach, working with the Office of Neighborhood Services and all the neighborhood groups. I show up to groups, neighborhood meetings regularly. The like I said, we did 27 community walkthroughs since June. That is multiple inspectors meeting multiple constituents and walking the neighborhood. Inspectors are surveying blocks, so they're going house to house, inspecting each house, making notes, looking for rodent activity. But we need more community engagement. And the Boston Rodent Action Plan, a big part of that plan is community engagement.
Yeah, okay, so someone is stating that some neighbors' kids were trying to feed them one night this week. Maybe engage in schools also. So that's very dangerous, right, John?
Should never, said they were trying to feed the rats.
Yes.
Yeah, you should never feed rats. Rats carry disease. It is very dangerous. It also, if they get used to being fed, they will come back. What they should do is call a pest control company and call 311 right away so that we can come out and address it. Rats around children is our most serious case. Rats in playgrounds, rats in schools, rats around children would get an immediate response. We do work with the schools. The Boston Public Schools are part of our working group, and we are working closely with them. I go to schools regularly and talk about rodent activity. I taught a class in Roxbury about it. So we do engage students around rodent activity, and will continue to.
Someone's asking, what is the next step after multiple code violations are given to one particular residence?
So if it's code enforcement violations, those tickets can pile up, but often it is referred to environmental services. If somebody receives multiple code enforcement tickets, it will be referred to us. We would write a violation, although our violations don't have a fine. They have a different process. So the violation is served by a constable. From the date of service, you have 7 days to correct the violation. If it's not corrected by that point, you are sent to an administrative hearing here at 1010 Mass Ave, where you have to come in front of a hearing officer and explain why you haven't corrected the violation. If it isn't corrected by that point, or you don't have a good reason why it hasn't, or you don't show up to the administrative hearing, you're sent to housing court and to a clerk magistrate and then a judge. So eventually the problem will get resolved. We give you multiple opportunities to resolve it, but eventually it will be resolved.
Okay, a lot of questions about the South End trash and recycling. Why isn't the trash, I guess, why isn't it mandated that they put the trash in trash barrels?
Yeah, currently there is a city ordinance, right? So a
Correct.
city ordinance that allows trash to be put out after 5 o'clock the night before pickup in trash bags. The Boston Rodent Action Plan will continue to look at everything involved that supports rodent activity. We'll look at trash, but currently the ordinance is that it's allowed. Like I said, just because it's allowed doesn't mean you should do it. If those bags are causing rodent activity, you should report it to 311 so an inspector can come by and address the activity.
Okay, John, Susan asks, how far do rodents travel to find food? It seems like if you are active on your block and educate your neighbors, rats will go elsewhere where the pickings are easier.
So rats are opportunists. They usually travel up to 100 feet. It could be as far as 300 feet. But they don't normally cross the street. If there's an infestation on a block, they'll usually stick to the block. But they are opportunists. So if there is easier food somewhere else, that's where they will go.
Okay. Kelly asked.
Sanitation, I'm sorry, Lisa, sanitation is the best tool to reduce rodent activity. If you have rodent activity on your block, reducing food and access to food is the best way. After that, you should get a pest control company, but addressing why the rodents are there, it's all driven by food.
Okay, we have a question from Kelly. What can be done to replace open city barrels along our main corridors? It's a constant feeding source regardless of how many times Public Works tries to empty them.
I can't speak for Public Works. There are pilots in place. We are looking at containerization of all city barrels, working to look at different designs on barrels that serve the public and also reduce the access to food for rodents.
Okay, what would one do if, say, if your neighbor did not clean or take care of their barrel? Is there something that can be done, even if you've spoken to them quite a few times, or?
What do you, if your neighbor does not clean their barrel?
Yeah, so if the barrel becomes soiled, it smells, and you
I
ask them,
would report it to 311 so an inspector could come by and take a look. If it's creating an issue, a sanitation issue, then it should be addressed.
okay, looks like we may have one more question. Can using a metal trash can with a lid be a better choice?
Metal is a very good choice for a trash can. It's very difficult for rodents to get through metal. You know, sometimes they get beat up during trash collection. You know, if you could find a metal barrel that had a cover that was attached to it, or somehow you were able to maintain it so that it had a tight fitting lid and it was a good seal. Metal is a great material to store trash.
Okay, I think that, well, we may have one more. I think we mentioned this already, but someone's asking, any thoughts on the neighborhood public gardens? Did you answer that already, John?
I did not, but we
Okay.
work closely with Public Gardens. It's a resource for folks in communities. Community gardens are important. People have places to grow food and feed their families and grow produce. But we spend a lot of time doing education. We even treat some of them. We've trained. The Trustees is an organization that has 56 community gardens, I think, in Boston. And we train them on different techniques of rodent control using carbon monoxide machines to deal with rodent activity. We also work very closely with Boston Grow to have educational stuff on their website and with the folks that they deal with, so that that community gardens have the best information so that they can plant their food in a clean and sanitary rodent-free environment.
Okay, I think that's it for now. If you're
And-
looking for additional information, you can call 311 or email, I believe, Jessica Thomas, our Assistant Commissioner of of Constituent Services, would be happy to help either connect you with your ward inspector, set up a walkthrough, or answer any additional questions that you may have. So Jessica's email is, I think she did put it in the chat, but it's Jessica.
I'll put it in again. Mhm.
Okay, so
Yep.
she'll put it in again. I'm sorry, Jessica. I didn't know if you were still here. Oh, there you go. Sorry. So just connect with Jessica and she'll be happy to help you with anything you're looking for. You want to close it out, Jessica or John, or? Okay.
Yeah, I can. I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join our call. It's really important to share this information, and we are happy to be of assistance to anyone who is looking for resources or guidance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.